Hello, everyone. So this is Kari, and I'm here with Colleen and Cheryl, Consistently Creative Crew. And this is our March 2026 photo time. And because this month has World Backup Day, or this month is actually World Backup Month. The past couple of years, we've talked about backups and how to ensure that you are backing up things. And I ran into a situation personally that made me think, you know what, I need to do an audit of my own things. And I'm guessing that probably there's a few other people out there who might benefit from this. So that's what I really wanted to kind of focus on tonight. So there was a handout that went out with this to clarify some terms and give some places for you to write some things down. And my hope tonight is to just convey some information, and we're going to do quite a bit of pausing the video, getting some time to write, just think about things. And if you are watching the recording and you didn't receive the handout, you can just let us know, and you can either email us at consistentlycreativecrew@gmail.com, or you can post on our Facebook page requesting it, and we'll get that to you. So tonight, I'm hoping to do this maybe every year, maybe every 18 months, seeing how it goes, just to look at doing an annual digital protection audit, because our systems drift over time. We get new devices, old subscriptions expire, new subscriptions start, devices age, things break, our backups change. So this is just trying to give you some structure to be able to review our systems and identify anything that needs attention. And I'm going to go through a few things first, and then we're going to go to the part in the handout where you're going to be writing some things down. So there really shouldn't be a whole lot that you need to write down initially. So again, so many things age over time, and we get new devices. And there's a term called system drift, which is just referring to the natural process of the fact that devices change, subscriptions lapse, routines stop. Sometimes when you update systems, like with OneDrive, things start saving to OneDrive and then they're not saving to OneDrive. And it's really a good idea to periodically just take a look at what we have and say, what do we have? And, what is the thing that is at the most risk? But I found that trying to do this a little bit at a time was very hard. So I was trying to develop a system that I thought might work for myself, and I thought it might be helpful to share it. So just to remind you, last fall, one of my hard drives failed, and it kind of gave me warnings. In retrospect, I realized that that was the case. But what was really surprising to me is that it was overdue for replacement. And I had not paid any attention to the date that I got the drive. I had not paid any attention to the fact that there was a manufacturing date actually written on the drive. But even if I had, I didn't really have a way of tracking it. I didn't really recognize how old it had been. I think partially just due to busy life, but also partially due to the time of COVID. I lost perception of time frame during that whole time. So it really wasn't a dramatic thing, but it made me say, hey, I probably should have replaced this sooner, and I really intend to replace my other devices sooner. So that's what I'm kind of hoping to give you tonight. So tonight, my hope is for you to identify some of the devices that you use, and maybe some of the devices that you are not currently using, but that are still in your home that you need to do something with. Identify what's protected and what's not. Identify some steps to strengthen something. And we're going to have enough time tonight for you to actually take a look at a few things. And I will give you a number of ideas about how to do that. So we're going to walk through the concepts first and then walk through the audit together. So when I'm talking about device audit, I am thinking about all sorts of things: phones, computers, be they laptop or desktop, tablets, cameras, SD cards, flash drives, external hard drives, basically any device that can store a file is would count as a device. And I don't know about you, but I have a few really, really old phones that are just sitting in my home going, oh, these need to be dealt with. I've got old drives, I've got old SD cards. A lot of them I've taken care of because I've addressed them from a photo memory standpoint, but I haven't done anything with them as far as do they need to be archived? Are they done? Did I get everything off of them? Or are they still something that I need to be backing up and paying attention to? Migration and verification. And these terms are both on your handout. So migrate means that you've copied the files to another system. So you don't have a single source of failure or a single point of failure. So if you only have your photos on an SD card, then if that SD card fails, you lose them. But it's not just photos. It can be any other files. It can be files that you've gotten from other people. It can be flash drives that you've gotten, or some things that maybe you got while you were on a trip and you got some information or some things, some memories, videos, photos, or things like that. Verifying isn't like a full verification that every single file is good. It's really just confirming that in general, the copy is complete. You can normally do that by identifying that the total number of files are the same and that all of them show up um, and they're visible. Because sometimes when we copy things, if we copy things and we're not really careful, maybe we don't get all the files, maybe we only get some of the files, and maybe we have files that have duplicate names and then we don't get both of them. So we're just going to look at a little bit of verification. And while I'm considering this, I kind of separated things into three different layers or three different levels. One is the one that I focus a lot on with a lot of people doing things with forever, basically their photos, their videos, their audios, the things that they want to save indefinitely and pass on to other people. So those are the things that I would refer to as more your permanent memory types. The second kind of layer is thinking about entire devices that need backups, like your computers, like a total hard drive, is everything on your phone backed up? The third thing is not really a device, but it's really considering on your devices, do people have account access to the information if something were to happen to you, and is there documentation for it? So Um, and backups can be things like an external drive, but they can also be a monitored backup, like a thing like Backblaze or Carbonite or OneDrive. So external drives are things that you would actually hold in your hand, plug into your device. You've got another extra copy. They are easy to forget and easy to lose and easy to misplace. And like I found, easy to not realize that they were getting near the end of their useful life. A monitored backup is a really good thing to have. It's automatic, it can be running in the background. And since it is World Backup Month, that's definitely a good thing to consider doing, depending on, what your comfort level is. I personally use Backblaze. I know a lot of other people who use Carbonite. I know there are also other providers and lots of good ones that you can possibly use. So that's something to consider. And you may see additional advertisements and promotions about the different services this month because it is World Backup Month. And a reminder, which is not really needed with all the people who are here, there is a difference between a sync and a backup. A sync allows you to look at the files on multiple devices, and when you delete it on one, it actually deletes it on all of them because it's actually synchronizing. It's looking at one master copy, and all the devices are looking at that. A really good example is my phone and my iPad and iCloud. I delete a file on my phone. When I go to look at it on my iPad, it is gone because iPad is just looking at that cloud storage. It is a sync. A lot of services are a sync, and it's important to recognize which ones are sync and which ones are backups. And they both serve extremely useful purposes because I love the fact that I can look at a photo that I took on both devices at any one time, but I have to be cognizant of the fact that it is a sync. So when I delete one, it's gone from all of them. A backup is different because it creates a totally independent copy, which means that it's not being mirrored at the same time, but it allows you to have a completely independent source. So if the original fails or the original device fails, you know you have another copy. So we're going to start diving in very soon to audit your own personal system. And it's important, since no one else is going to see this but you, just to be honest about it and use, if you don't know, write unknown. That's fine because that's definitely a valid result. It's more important to just get an idea of what you have, what you don't have, what you don't know. And don't worry about trying to fix anything yet because we will have some time to kind of identify what some of the things are. So tonight is just kind of getting all the different ideas down on the paper. So I separated in our first two sections active, so things that are currently being used by you, versus inactive, because they have a little bit of a different perspective with them. So, but as you're writing down in the active list, feel free to go ahead and go into the inactive list. Okay, so section 1 has active devices, current devices that you have. And in the handout, I have what the device name is, what type it is, and what does it store. Is there an independent backup for it? And have you verified the backup recently? Again, I don't expect you to do that while we're sitting here and doing the initial part of the audit. There will be some time later on. So let me just pull up the handout. Okay, so this is the section that I'm in. So I'm going to end up taking a few moments and we'll fill in some devices. Again, think about your phones, your laptops, any external drives that you're currently using. Do you have memory cards on your phone or for your camera? What kind of files does it store? Do you know if there is an independent backup of the material and the files that are on there? And have you verified them recently? Again, unknown is a fine thing to go ahead and mark on this. So I'm going to pause the recording for all of us who are live today. All right, so we took a few minutes to start filling out this section of the handout with some of the different devices as well as what they were. And again, thinking even beyond photos, even though I know it's photo time, thinking beyond photos, our computers store a bunch of things, not just photos, but they store all sorts of files. And again, like I said, if you don't know if something has a good backup, that's okay. Just mark unknown. All we're doing right now is trying to identify what we know at this moment. And chances are, if you go through a closet or go through a drawer that has additional devices on it, you're going to find some others to add to this. And it might be helpful to even consider family members' devices that are on here because I know for us, we tend to go in and look at it going, when did you replace that? When was the last time that device was replaced? So this is a good idea. So then moving on to section 2. Thinking about devices that you do have that you're not necessarily currently using. So older devices, older phones, older laptops, older drives, noting age and manufacturing date. Now, some devices, and I'm going to just flip back to the last screen because I had them here. Some devices actually will have the date along with the serial number. Some of them you're actually going to have to go to the manufacturer's website, type in the serial number, and then you can find out when the manufacturing date was. And that can be really helpful. So I noticed that some of my older drives had the manufacturing date actually stamped or written on them, but some of my newer ones do not have that on there. So just a note for you. You might have some devices that actually do clearly have a date, others that don't. In addition, in the handout, I have an identification of whether it's a hard disk drive or a solid state drive. And because my family is kind of geeky engineers and my husband likes to tear some things apart, we dissected some old drives that we were taking out of commission. And so I thought it would be really useful for you to see the inside of what a hard disk drive looks. So you can see that on this slide. So this hard disk drive that is in the top part of the photo looks very much like a disc, like a CD or a DVD, which is why when we would drop those types of devices, if they would like slam onto the floor, this needle that's on it, that's kind of reading it, would scratch it. And then sometimes our device or parts of our device were no longer usable. And part of the reason why on the form I put the difference between a hard disk drive and a solid state drive is the hard disk drives are a little bit more fragile, they're easier to scratch, they're easier to damage, and prices have come down significantly that all of our drives that we're updating now should really be solid state. And you can see a picture in the bottom part of the picture what the solid state drive looks like. And so that's what all the drives that we're getting now we want to have. However, there are laptops that are coming with hard disk drives instead of solid state drives. And maybe this mental picture will just kind of help you pause to say, maybe I want to be sure that I'm paying attention which type of disk drive I have. There are definitely a lot of them that I've seen that are lower price models, really powerful, but they put a hard disk drive in it. So it's got one of these spinning CD looking things inside of it. So just so you're aware that that's something to be cognizant and aware of. So in section 2, I'm just having you note more what things that you have that are inactive, old devices. If you don't know the age, it's going to be something that you're going to look up. If it is aging and you think, oh my goodness, it's really old and much older than I thought, don't worry about it for the moment. It's okay. You're just going to be writing the things down because having the knowledge gives you some power to make some decisions moving forward. And again, we're going to mark fully migrated, or maybe it needs rescuing. Maybe it's a really old drive that you know that you have to recover some things off of, and you just haven't done it yet. There's a lot of us who have had computers crash and we got things functioning and moved on, but maybe never recovered everything off of an older drive. And so maybe you still need to get all of that stuff off of there. So we're in section 2 right now, looking at inactive devices, um, and filling that part out. All right, so we're having some really good conversations here about checking dates of things and how do you identify if something's a hard disk drive or a solid state drive. And just to note, even though we're going to have some work time here, those of us who are here live, considering the difference between the two, if it is not printed on your device, like this one you can see, it's not printed what it is, even though I know what it is. I would put the serial number into the internet, find the website of the manufacturer and do that. And I would do the same thing with the other one. You can kind of see here, I actually took a silver Sharpie on and wrote on my uh, external drive here when I put it into started using it. And then I put a piece of tape over it so I wouldn't actually rub that off. I just wrote on the back, and that way I know actually when I started using the drive, it was brand new. So we'll do a little bit more with that, but that's kind of wrapping up at least a beginning look of active and inactive drives and maybe things that need to be rescued. So in section 3, we want to kind of focus on The other part of this, what are your backups? Do you have syncs? Do you have external drives? Do you have fully monitored backups, things like Backblaze or Carbonite? Do you have permanent storage for things like your photos, or do you not have them? So thinking about these key devices that you have, thinking about what kind of backups do you have so that way you can identify them. And I have found as I was doing some of my audits that you can have devices that have more than one protection type. It is not necessarily uncommon to have that. Um, we're just trying to identify what exists, what you have right now, not judging anything, just auditing, and thinking about your overall system of backups. Is thinking about things. Do you have at least one offsite copy? Because if the only copy of something that's important is in your home, then it is in fear of being lost. Um, Thinking about the things that are truly important, that nothing really relies on a single physical location for you to have access to it, and making certain that you just understand the difference between sync and backup, which I went through earlier. So just a couple of additional questions that are in this section 3. So I'm going to pause the recording again, and we're going to just fill out section 3. All right, so we worked through a few things there, and one comment that I think I'm going to add to the worksheet is in this section 3, add the device name and the name of the backup. So if we're using a service or a provider or a certain cloud storage provider, we can write that in here. I appreciate having some additional feedback as we're going through this, because no matter how many times I tested it, I only ran into my little issues. So I will improve and be able to continue using this moving forward. So moving into the next section is shifting gears completely, thinking not about our devices, but now thinking about priority and findability of, in general, I'm switching to our collection of photos and memories. So I'm kind of taking another a side step here. Priority and findability. So if something were to happen to you, do you have something that's clearly labeled that people would know where to look first? What's the most important things? Do you have something like that? So it's our items identified? Do you have dates generally accurate? Do you have people identified? What do you have as far as identifying what is the most important thing? Part of the reason I added this in tonight, thinking about just in general our audit, what is the general status of it? Not all the minutia of, is every single photo, every single video dealt with and done, but more from a global perspective. Where do I stand? How
Mhm.
how good a shape am I in this perspective? Because for most of us who are here live tonight, and anybody who's probably going to watch the recording, this is something that's important to all of us. So I have a section in here about um, kind of what is your priority, what is your findability of your things. So inside your permanent storage, and for most of us who are here tonight, I'm thinking about forever, do I have something that's like the most important album, or start here, or this is the information you need to know? Do you have information there that your key family members are going to be identified? Are dates generally accurate? Or if they're not, did you identify that somewhere so that people know kind of what the lay of the land is? Um, would someone be able to identify what matters most and be able to get to that? So we're going to think about it just for a few minutes, and before we move on to the the next part, which is um, a little bit more detailed on this. But here I'm just thinking about your actual photos, your memories, your videos. and the next section will go into access, who has access. So I've kind of separated some of that out. Okay, so a few things there in that section, and I admitted to everybody here that I don't necessarily have this myself, which I thought it was a really good idea, and I think it's something that I need to and would like to work on because I think it's important. So, moving on to the next section. So while this is very specific to forever accounts, the idea does not just apply to forever accounts. So if you were unavailable tomorrow, and that doesn't necessarily mean you die tomorrow, but maybe you're really sick or you're in the hospital, you're recovering from surgery or something. Who could log in? Who would know where to look? And would they know what matters most? So you want to be sure that this information is accessible for all backup accounts. So Forever provides this form, which we send to all storage owners so they have it and they keep it with their important documents. And they hopefully send it to their ambassadors so their ambassadors can help out if that needs to be. But you also need this for all of your other uh, backups and your other types of systems. Like, can somebody log into your computer if you weren't there and they needed to get in? Um, but in general, people have to know the account exists. They have to know the login credentials. The password system has to be documented. Like, think about two-factor authentication. If you're using your face as your identification on your phone and you're not there, can somebody else get in? Does a trusted person know where to look? Um, and specifically for forever accounts, the account manager should be assigned and documented. So, as part of this audit, I'm shifting gears again and now thinking about who has access to what matters. Is there some sort of continuity plan? What is going to happen? So, thinking about whatever account or platform is there, what kinds of things does it hold? Is the login information known? Does someone else even know it exists? Does any specific actions need to be taken? And I'm going to just recommend that if you're going to share this form with others, you consider whether you really want to be writing your passwords on here. But I'm not necessarily encouraging you to do that, just trying to still audit our systems. And then there's some additional questions in here on the bottom that are more general, like I use a password manager. Someone knows how to access the password system. A trusted person knows where to find the key account information. If you have a forever storage account, that you do have an account manager assigned, and that you've printed or you've got some type of documentation stored for this. And if something happened unexpectedly, what would be unclear to other people? And consider where we might need to take some action steps. So again, I'm going to pause the recording for those of us here to make a few notes. All right, let's move on. All right, so we've had a good conversation about passwords and passwords managers and how to deal with that. There's obviously a lot of questions and a lot of potential follow-up for people and things to consider. Getting kind of close to the end, thinking about where we are. So just kind of thinking about all of the stuff that we talked about, just kind of give yourself a little assessment. Where do you feel like is the weakest link? Is it your permanent memories that need some help, be it maybe what's most important there, or is it your full device protection, or is it that access and continuity that people would not be able to access things if something happened to you? So, we are going to have some time here to work on a number of things. So we have plenty of time here to work for 15 or 20 minutes to just kind of think about what can we do with this time that we have. So maybe you could start a most important album and start jotting down ideas of what you might want to put in there. Maybe you're going to verify a backup. Maybe, like we talked about, and I didn't have on the slide, you're going to put in something about one of your external hard drives and find out from the manufacturer, how old is it? Maybe you're going to think about what that rescue plan might actually need to be for a specific device if you have one that you need to get rescued. Maybe there's some place local that can help you with that. Maybe you're going to take that account manager document and you're going to print it out and you're going to write in it so that you have that done. Maybe you're going to investigate one of the companies that provides full device backup as being an opportunity for you. So there's a number of things that we can do. So I'm gonna just stop the recording, ask you to choose something to think about. In about 10 minutes, I'll do a check-in, just see how everybody's doing, but everybody's here is kind of conversing as we go. And then I'll call time at around 20 minutes. So just, don't feel like you have to do everything. Don't feel like you have to like juggle all of them, but just pick one thing, do one thing and make a little progress. All right, so I shared something live here and it was felt that I should put this on the recording. So hopefully I am sharing the right screen. I had taken a picture of one of my disk drives earlier and it's one of my archives and I don't have any information on here about when it was manufactured. And I know the model is Samsung, so I went in here and I just typed Samsung disk drive manufacturer date, and it gives me some information about how to identify the date. But one thing I wanted to let you know, many manufacturers have, when you put in the serial number, it can tell you. So I wanted to share if you use the snipping tool to grab that information with the serial number here. There is a button that looks like a box with some lines in it. It's actually like four corners with some lines in it, and it's text actions. If I click that, it will identify the text in there, and then I can just copy it to my clipboard. And so I'm going to just paste that into this search bar, and then it's going to tell me what that code actually meant because the 8th digit was 0, the 9th digit was 8. So it says it was manufactured in August of 2010. This is actually one of my old disk drives, but it is very helpful. And it says it could be 2010 or 2020. So I can kind of consider which one that might be. If I go to the manufacturer's website, a lot of times they'll actually give me more information, but this at least helped, detected what the code was. So that hopefully that snipping tool will help you. Again, just take a photo of it, use the snipping tool to grab just the text that you're really interested in, and then you can have the text actions copy it. So that's hopefully a helpful tool. All right, so we are running out of time. We're almost done. We did a lot tonight, a lot of thinking, a lot of conversing about a variety of topics. I know in some ways that this was a little bit all over the place, thinking about backups from a big perspective on our devices, as well as our memories, as well as backup passwords, continuity, a lot of things that I covered. So I just want to reiterate, considering where you stand as of right now after doing somewhat of this audit, where do things stand? Which area are you weak in? And probably the area that you're weak in is the one thing that you might want to consider to strengthen this month. And as I'm thinking about all the things that I listed that I'm like, oh, I should do that, and I probably should do that. Think about one concrete action that you could take in the next 4 weeks. Don't make it big, don't make it crazy. Don't, go wild about it. It doesn't have to be a big thing because every little step you take and everything like you did tonight is a few more steps that, get you a little bit farther along the way. So I'm just going to ask some of the people here. So, for some insight or an improvement, what did you take away from tonight? What did you strengthen? Did you get some insight? Did you improve something when you were looking at it? What did you do? Okay, this is
I gained major insight as to the stuff that's most important to me and the stuff that my family needs. Nobody knows. And it
e-
must get documented. And I've got three things here: my phone forever and my bank account, my personal one.
excellent. Excellent. Good insight. How about anybody else?
Colleen here. I
Yeah.
just learned that I haven't really thought about all the different places that things are stored. I'm like, oh. So it's a matter of, okay, let's start the process of collecting all those things and surveying them and finding out what I need to do to protect what I have.
Awesome. Awesome. And hopefully this form will be helpful. And again, we can modify it and edit it, but if there's anything that you find as you're going through it that is lacking or you need additional columns or something, definitely let me know so that we can just improve this form as we move forward. Anybody else?
I think for me, Kari, the awareness of what I haven't done, the passwords that aren't in a place to pass on to somebody, even though I know that, I just haven't done it. And the same with the continuity information for forever. I haven't, obviously I know that, but I haven't done it. So those are my two top ones to get something done.
Excellent. Excellent. Awesome. All right. Anybody else want to share before I move on? All right. Well, everybody, I think we made some really good progress tonight. I hope that anybody who might be watching the recording finds it all very helpful also. Again, this is a maintenance thing to do. This is not meant to like panic us and think we've got all the stuff that we have to do. But by doing this on a periodic basis, we can take into consideration all those unexpected things that happen and that systems drift over time and things change and devices change and technology, gets updated and upgrades. So an annual review helps reduce the risk because as we've all recognized, as we've been talking, a number of things have changed even in the past 6 months. So doing this periodically is really helpful and keeping it in view so that you can recognize that, oh, I could take another step working on this here. And that makes life easier for others, as we've all acknowledged that because it's not just for our convenience, we're also looking at legacy and other people and how do they access things that we have. And one other thing before I wrap up is that there's going to be another helpful Zoom on Tuesday, March 31st at 7 p.m. Eastern. It'll be 90 minutes. The Rockstar team with Forever always does a World Backup Day Zoom, and there's a number of different speakers who speak on a variety of things. It's all interconnected with the idea that it's World Backup Day. I'm happy to share the link with anybody upon request. And if you are, already connected with me, I easily can share that via email or sending me a message. But if you see this on Facebook or on YouTube and you're interested, let me know because I can definitely get that to you. So with that, I'm going to just wrap up for tonight and say thank you so much for your time. I hope you found this all useful. I'd love to hear anybody's comments who watched the recording, that this was our first digital protection audit, and I think all of us gained some insight, including myself. I'm really glad that I did end up deciding to do this. I think it'll be a useful thing for us to continue to do and to kind of hold each other accountable as we move forward. And the Consistently Creative crew will be back next week and it will be Project Recipe. And other than that, and at the next photo time will be the first Wednesday in April. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Kari. Great
Thank you.
class.
Kari.